Penguin Random House Audio presents Reagan, An American Journey by Bob Spitz. Read for you by Paul Michael. To Barbara Aikman for her wisdom and generosity, and Becky Aikman for the same, and everything else. If the single man plant himself indomitably on his instincts and there abide, the huge world will come round to him. Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you have a bat in your hand, you have a chance to change the storyline. Reggie Jackson. Prologue. Las Vegas, Nevada, February 15th, 1954. Ronald Reagan had lost his way. Identical corridors splayed through the Hotel Last Frontier like spokes on a wheel, and none of them seemed to lead to the Ramona Room. One spoke led off to the Gay 90s bar where the Kirby Stone Four were setting up for their midnight to dawn gig. Another cut through the 21 Club Casino, whose rows of ravenous slot machines were clacking away like castanets. The hall to the left emptied into the Carrillo Room, a Tony watering hole for the after-show crowds, and past that to the Chuck Wagon, its wood-paneled pub. A fifth spoke descended to a subterranean passage known to hotel guests as the Marine Room, offering underwater glimpses into the deep end of the pool. The Ramona Room, for all Ronald Reagan knew, might have been located on Mars. He stood at the hub deciding which way to turn, like a piece on a game board. The wrong move would make him late for his own opening night. The Last Frontier had pulled out all the stops for its Ronald Reagan showcase. The hotel's nightclub was known for its top-flight entertainers, but rarely attracted Hollywood stars. Most actors steered clear of Las Vegas engagements, fearing its seamy aura would tarnish their fame. But Reagan, whose own aura of late had dimmed, had little choice. He was 43 and experiencing what he referred to as some rough sledding, a Hollywood euphemism for a career on the skids. His contract at Warner Brothers, where he'd been a studio stalwart since 1936, had ended in a whimper of lowly scripts and lower box office receipts. Freed to work for any studio, he hadn't fared much better. He made, in his words, a couple of turkeys. Tropic Zone, an unimaginative action yarn at Paramount, even though he knew the script was hopeless, followed by Law and Order at Universal, based on a stale B-Western formula. Since then, he'd rejected every dismal script, setting off a 6-month drought. It was the longest layoff of his professional career. Throughout that career, Ronald Reagan had been a reliable, if unspectacular, movie star, with a body of solid roles to his credit. Pictures like Newt Rockney, All-American, and King's Row had elevated him from feature player to marquee prominence. His agent, Lou Wasserman, was a powerhouse, the capo di tutti capi, with the clout to keep Reagan gainfully employed. In 1947, Reagan had been elected president of the Screen Actors Guild, a position that bestowed prestige even as the parts failed to measure up. And his new wife, Nancy Davis, 10 years his junior, attractive and smart, was what Hollywood called a comer. Together they spent nights dancing at the Mocambo and Ciro's, or in their booth at Chasen's, breaking bread with the Dick Powells or the Jack Bennys or the Bill Holdens. Hollywood royalty. On the surface, Ronald Reagan was similarly enthroned. But in the film business, the surface was usually make-believe. Reagan was still handsome, still virile, still radiantly charming, but he was too old now to play the lead in a romance or action flick. He didn't sing or dance well enough to do musicals, and he wasn't the subtle kind of actor who might get parts in more nuanced fare. So at the moment, the Reagans were in a real crunch. Money was tight. Having gone for a while without getting his standard $75,000 per movie fee, Reagan had been dipping into
Sample complete. Ready to continue?